Hi everybody, welcome to week 8. First of all, happy Holy Week. I know in my church I'm going to be spending Friday night and most of Sunday in church, and so I hope you have a blessed Easter. For those of you who don't practice Easter, I hope you get lots of chocolate. That's another fun part of the holiday. Anyway, let's see, this week we're talking about ethics and integrity. Interesting topic when it comes to education. We tend to think of education as being fairly straightforward, but there certainly are ethical and integrity components to it. Um, One of the things that comes to mind when I'm thinking about this is fair grading and um, looking at tests objectively, um, using rubrics to increase objectivity. One area, let's say I'm doing a multiple choice exam for students. One thing I do when I'm trying to determine what questions to look at to possibly evaluate, I make sure that I don't first look at any of my students' individual scores. I always first look at my statistical information. So I look at any questions where 50% or less of the students got the question right. Or I also look at, there's something called a point by serial. It's kind of like the reliability of each question. If that is particularly low, then I look at that question to evaluate. And only after I go through all of those and then usually in the computer program that I'm using, give back any extra points or anything, do I then look at individual scores. Because sometimes, even though we try to treat all our students the same, sometimes we do have favorites. And we can't ever let that influence, how we look at exams and that sort of thing. The same comes with grading papers. The more we use rubrics and really objective criteria, the more fair that we can be. But I do also think we need to acknowledge our biases. All of us who are in education love students who are well prepared, students who have done their reading, students who turn in projects that have obviously been edited, and those do tend to become our favorite students. But we really want to pay attention and really encourage everyone so that hopefully all of our students can rise to the level of expectation that we've set for the class. I am also attaching a kind of an interesting little something to think about. It's about privilege, privilege in the United States, who has it and who doesn't. And it has to do with our biases and discrimination and things that we don't realize that maybe we have privilege because we haven't thought about it. So it's basically a checklist to go down and think about what things apply to me and what things don't. And it's just meant to make you think a little bit deeper about whether or not you experience privilege and how people around you and maybe in your community experience discrimination of some sort or have less opportunity in some way. So just something to think about there. In my own experience with ethics and integrity, I was the dean of a small private nursing school. I was brought in to really shape up things. Their NCLEX pass rates weren't very high. They were trying to go for national accreditation. The curriculum needed to be fine-tuned. They weren't using a lot of active learning strategies. So I was really excited to go in and really work with the faculty and bring the team together, and things were going really well. We had gotten our NCLEX pass rates up, and we passed accreditation, the initial accreditation. It was really exciting. So up until that point, the president of that college had been very willing to let myself and faculty have a lot of input into admission criteria, how we handled students who were failing, and it was a very kind of autonomous area. Well, after the pass rates got up and after we had received accreditation, I started seeing weird things like people being admitted who didn't meet the criteria, or people being given third and fourth chances at things that I had already told them they couldn't come back. And so I started talking with the president and really tried hard to work with her and gave her all the rationales of why the program needed to be successful based on these like things like admission criteria. And she just continued to do these strange things kind of behind my back. And I no longer felt that I could count on her integrity, and it was really affecting the integrity of the program. And eventually I had to leave. So you just never know when you're going to be faced with ethical and integrity issues within nursing education, or within practice at the hospitals in clinical education. Maybe you're going to have scenarios where the managers are maybe too quick to want to fire someone who's not progressing, where you think maybe they could benefit for some more education and could be salvaged and become a really good nurse, or vice versa. There's somebody that a manager doesn't want to give up on despite multiple education, things like that. So you never know how this is going to present itself in the work setting. A couple other things. For those of you who reach the point in your practicum where you're able to turn in your midterm evals, I'm very excited about those. I was able to score them, and it looks like everybody's doing well. For those of you who hadn't reached that point, I just want to remind you that when you reach about 75 hours, and that includes your GCU orientation if you went through that, then I really need you to get those midterm evals to your preceptors and get those filled out. So when you reach about the halfway point in your hours, I need you to submit those. Let's see. I think that's about it for right now. Again, happy Easter, and I look forward to hearing your thoughts in the main forum. Bye.